Merry Christmas, YouTube. You know, this time of year, it's easy to get focused on Santa and on gifts and get our thoughts and attention away from the true meaning of Christmas and the reason for the season. And because of that, I am bringing you a very special book today. What is up? I'm Gene Clark. This is Self-Development Quest, and today I am bringing you the book, Jesus, CEO, on this Christmas Eve. While many consider Jesus to be the greatest teacher in the world, even more should consider him the greatest leader the world has ever seen. He created a following so passionate that over 2,000 years after his birth, the world still comes together to celebrate him. So today I wanted to share with you some of the qualities that made Jesus the greatest CEO the world has ever seen. The full title of this book is Jesus CEO, Using Ancient Wisdom for Visionary Leadership. And now, why focus on Jesus? Because he was the wisest man to ever walk the earth. His knowledge and his wisdom were used to teach the world about God, and that wisdom allowed him to create the greatest following the world had ever seen before him, and that has ever been seen since him. Apologies to any celebrities who have large followings on social media, but 2.2 billion Christians in the world, well, that number hasn't been beat yet. The book was written in a way that allows you to either sit down and take it in over the course of a few days, or you can sit down and take it in chapter by chapter, one day at a time. You can skip around. You're not going to miss anything. It doesn't build upon itself. Just each chapter is a tidbit of information, a leadership tactic used by Jesus to allow him to become the greatest leader the world had ever seen. For a point of reference, anybody that's seen my video on the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, very similar style. Each chapter is about 2 to 4 pages. Each chapter is written with a specific theme, a specific topic in mind, but the chapters don't necessarily build upon one another, but they are related throughout 3 different sections in this book. Those lessons are going to be spread out across 3 different strength areas for Jesus, and those 3 strengths are today's RORs. As you know, I believe every book we read is an investment in our own self-development, and I like to call the returns on those investments our return on reading, or ROR for short. So, with that said, let's hop into today's RORs. Each of those 3 sections has about 30 different topics they cover on leadership applying to that specific strength. We're not going to dive into all of those within each ROR. Obviously, that would make this a very long video, but I am probably going to hit up about 5 just to give you an idea, just to give you my favorite takeaways. But again, there's about 30 within each section. We've got almost 90 different leadership lessons in this book. So I want to encourage all of you to check it out and check out all the leadership lessons, because there's a lot you can take away. These are just my own personal takeaways. ROR number 1, strength of self-mastery. Each section starts with a Bible verse, and I'm going to give you the Bible verse of each one in the RORs. So for strength of self-mastery, it is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Above all else, keep watch over your heart, for herein lies the wellspring of life. He did difficult things. You know, one definition of a professional is a person who does things even when he does not feel like doing them. Peter tried to tell Jesus not to go to Jerusalem. He sensed that there was danger, and he was absolutely correct. However, Jesus knew it was part of a larger plan. So he set his face towards Jerusalem, even knowing the consequences would mean death. He said, thank you. You know, in Jesus' final prayers, he thanked God for the disciples that he had been given. He had a thankful heart. Gratitude is a key element of leadership. And because gratitude means an open heart, a listening heart, and a faithful heart, how could anyone be a good leader without a faith and a gratitude towards a higher power? Jesus owned it. He clearly demonstrated a sense of ownership of all things. He looked at the world and the people in it as his own responsibility. It was his inheritance. It was his heritage. The whole universe was his, and everything in it was his as well. And as leaders, we have to look at our vision and our people and take full ownership of them, because without taking that full ownership, we can't truly lead anybody. He did not come to judge others. Jesus stated many times that he did not come to judge, he came to help. He would say, I am not here to judge you, your own words judge you. And when we as leaders judge others and judge the ones around us, we not only inhibit them, but we inhibit our own forward progress. He worked through his fear. Jesus knew that the best way to conquer fear was to face it head on. He didn't shrink away from going to Jerusalem. He boldly announced that he was coming. Fear is ever present in our lives, and even though we may be afraid, we must face it anyway. ROR number 2, strength of action. Wisdom, chapter 8, verse 1, she deploys her strength from one end of the earth to the other, ordering all things for good. He formed a team. Once Jesus began his work, he wasted no time in forming a team, because even Jesus knew that if he was going to change the world, he couldn't do it alone. He would shout out, "Follow me," across the water to the fishermen, and they would drop their nets and follow him. If you, as a leader, intend to accomplish anything of significance, the first step towards your goal needs to be the creation of a team. Jesus was bold. Out of every lesson in this book, this could be my favorite one. Jesus was bold. He didn't mumble. He didn't whisper when he told his message. He did not go through countless committees trying to get permission to make a statement. No, he was bold. He walked into the temple at the age of 12 and began teaching because he was bold. And as an adult, he came back, and when they did not listen to him, he flung tables and chairs to get their attention. Everything he did made a statement about what he saw his mission to be, all because as a leader, he was bold. And as leaders, we need to be bold. He was visible. Leaders cannot keep a low profile. When the Roman soldiers came to arrest Jesus, they didn't necessarily know who they were looking for. But Jesus stepped forward anyway, and he said, "I'm the one you're looking for. Let the others go." Leaders are a light, visible to all. They need to be put at the top of the hill for all to see, not hidden under a rock. Jesus was not going to be a low-profile person. He was going to be visible. He trained his replacements. Jesus, as a leader, was eager and intent on hiring people that he felt could replace him, people that could carry the torch and bring just as much passion and conviction as he had. Greater things than I have done shall you do, he promised them. Those were his words to his disciples. And to do this, Jesus had to have full faith and security in his own position, which obviously he did. He understood his position with God and what his position on earth was. And he knew he would always be in this position, but he had to be able to train this next group to eventually rise up and take the torch and carry the message themselves. Jesus knew he wouldn't always be around. And as leaders, we won't always be around. And if we don't train our replacements, if we don't bring people up to have that same kind of passion, that same kind of desire about the vision, the goal that we have put in place, then the vision dies with us. The goal, the mission dies when we die or when we step away. And so Jesus knew that part of his job was to ensure that once he was gone, his disciples would carry on the message. And as leaders, we have to have that same goal in mind. We have to train our replacements so that when we are not there, they can see the vision and they can carry the torch and keep the mission on course. ROR number 3, strength of relationships. Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 39. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. On this hang all the law and the prophets. He gave them a vision of something larger than themselves. Jesus walked up to the fishermen and told them if they follow him, he will make them fishers of men. And they did. History shows that people hunger for something greater than themselves. Leaders who offer this will have no shortage of followers. And so when Jesus told a thirsty woman that to follow him and she will never thirst again, not only did she follow him, but she ran and she got all her friends to follow him as well, because the vision was there. He believed in them. See, it wasn't just the disciples that believed in Jesus. It was Jesus that believed in the disciples. If he didn't, he never would have slept. Their backgrounds were not glorious, and they didn't always grasp the concept of what he was trying to explain to them, but he believed that they would rise to the occasion. And to have someone admire us, to have someone admire you in a way and on that level, that's going to release the greatness within you. So think about, as a leader, if you believe in your people on that level, that's going to release a greatness in them that you have yet to see. It certainly worked for all the disciples. I'm sure it can work for your followers too. He educated them. You know, they say Jesus did three things. Everywhere he went, he was teaching, healing, and preaching. Well, teaching is educating the mind, and preaching is educating the heart. So it's safe to say that 2/3 of the work Jesus did was simply education. And in order for us to fully understand the message that Jesus was trying to deliver, he knew that he needed to educate us along the way. And in order to have your followers understand your vision and your goal as a leader, leaders need to educate them on the mission and on the vision on a consistent basis. Jesus served. You know, to serve is to love, and Jesus loved his disciples. Did you know that the symbol for love is a circle? And did you know that true service inspires more service? This is why servant leadership is the best form of leadership. It shows that you can love your team. And when your team feels love, they will go into battle for you, and they will risk it all for you, your vision, your goals. He gave them authority. Jesus delegated authority to his disciples. And that obviously requires a tremendous amount of trust. And this is something I think that's missing in our corporate culture today, because a lot of times we operate out of fear of giving others authority, fear of being given authority. And this causes us to not make decisions or operate our daily jobs out of fear. If Jesus can give authority to the disciples to help lead the world into the Christianity faith we know today, why can we not give authority to those that we are leading? Jesus did it to leverage the gifts of his disciples and develop them into better leaders. Shouldn't we be doing the same? Absolutely. To bring us home, my thoughts on the book, thought it was absolutely fantastic. I loved how each chapter was its own independent leadership topic, and you could read it over the course of a few days. You could take it one lesson per day and read it over the course of a few months, or anything in between. What I ended up doing is probably reading about 10 lessons once a week. Every Sunday night, I picked up the book. I said, okay, Jesus CEO, let's do it. And I got through it over the course of a few months. I absolutely loved it. It did have more of a personal connection for me. This book was my mom's, and she passed away a few years ago. So just reading that in itself meant a lot, but every now and then I'd come across a lesson that had a prayer card or something tucked in there, and it was like my mom was trying to communicate with me, trying to tell me, hey, you need to focus on this lesson for some reason. And that was really neat. That was really powerful for me. So I enjoyed the book maybe a little bit more than you're going to because of that. But either way, I'd encourage everybody out there, check out this book. I think it's going to have a profound effect on you, your life, your spirituality, and your leadership. And with that said, from me and my family to you and yours, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas.